Season 1 is done, and while Season 2 has been underwhelming, I'd say now's a good time to take a look back at Season 1 of Helluva Boss. I thought it would be fitting to include the Helluva Boss's pilot here since it's truly the start of it all, the purpose of which is to test out what potential audiences like or what works before becoming its own series. It's not uncommon for a show to have slight adjustments from the pilot, usually for better or worse, but the main premise, what truly sells people on it, rarely does that ever change. And Helluva Boss's pilot, while having its own fair share of pacing issues, excessive, and I just do mean excessive swearing, and crammed packed with a lot of information to digest all at once, aspects that I wish didn't carry over to the main series, was clear and simple. Imps with their own murder business for sinners to get petty revenge, and hijinks ensue. Perhaps 1 or 2 episodes of the IMP team exploring different rings of hell were expected from an episodic series, like how Cartoon Network's Chowder was about a young chef learning new and exciting recipes, but every once in a while took a break from that to explore their world and other characters. Starting off with the IMP team in a meeting that quickly devolves into a series of flashback cutaways that highlight each character, except Millie, and gives you an understanding of the circumstances these characters are in. Wow, the pilot really did give us everything we needed to expect from these characters. Blitz's starry-eyed desire to run a successful business his own way, but has to maintain a transactional relationship with the upper-class owl Stolas in order to do so. His adopted daughter/hellhound Luna being extremely apprehensive towards his parental affection, yet shows cracks in her own emotional armor and actually does appreciate Blitz, while also bullying the M&Ms, mainly Moxie, who has an uptight attitude towards Blitz to keep things professional and not stalk him and his wife, and Millie with her playful demeanor being protective of her husband, going with whatever Blitz says, and undermining Luna. Yep, sure is a 1-to-1 to me. The pilot, even with its flaws, is a lot funnier than I remember, with a plausible structure. It introduced our main characters, their dynamics, and possible hurdles they'd have to face while running their business. Honestly could have gone without the bratty kid roasting the IMP team since they were doing a fine enough job of tearing into each other themselves already. At that point it just felt like excessive spoon feeding or echoing of their own arguments. It showcased some very strong character dynamics and moments with a touching yet albeit messed up ending that the show will later be known for. For every wholesome moment in Helluva Boss, there's also a gruesome one that usually follows. Aside from a few very slight character design updates and changing of voice actors, I'd say Helluva Boss's pilot did a great job of what to expect from the show itself. For some time anyway. At first, I really liked the contrast of the human world and hell while Mrs. Mayberry was telling her story to Blitz. But it feels like hell and earth are just two sides of the same coin, filled with terrible people doing terrible things, so aside from the color palettes, there's no real distinction between the two. Bad enough, later episodes will confirm this. While Moxie struggles with the moral dilemma of killing a family, wouldn't you know it, IMP just got a job to kill a family. Specifically the mother. They're ruining a family. But again, with Earth being as deranged as hell, this is no ordinary family. They're a twisted, trigger-happy, cannibal family. Honestly, did not expect that, but it does make it more challenging for the team to take them out, and thus more entertaining for us, so I'll give them a pass on that. Hence my meaning of hijinks ensue. But Stolas calling Blitz mid-firing just felt really out of place to me. Getting this exposition about the grimoire was necessary for the first episode, yes, but I wish it was someplace else. Because hearing Stolas talk dirty while Blitz almost dies was jarring. In yet another classic Helluva Boss ending, Moxie does the right thing and shares a loving moment with Millie just before the police blow up the rest of the family. Excellent. Moxie and Blitz were great foils for each other, while Luna and Millie were also in this episode. The animation and comedy, great. The pacing and tone were really solid. Where did it all go wrong? If you're not a fan of Blitz's profane potty mouth and extremely dirty sense of humor, you're in for a rough ride. He tends to overdo it, but thankfully that's mainly tied to his character and not so much so others. Murder Family was the first time we saw IMP do their job, which I thought would be more of this as the show went on, but we're not there yet. So I'd give this episode a 7 out of 10. Admittedly, this episode feels like it should have come later in the season because I don't think anyone expected to see Stolas being more than a hoity-toity lustful owl that was using Blitz right back as he used Stolas. This opening flashback of Stolas comforting and crying Octavia and assuring her that he'll always be there for her makes the present all the more grim, since we see his wife Stella very upset that he cheated on her with an imp, and that shakes Via's confidence in his ability to stay as he promised. Such a great emotional dilemma for characters that could have been regulated off to the side with less to do, but it also caused sort of a focusing problem later on, which is why I feel this episode should have come at least in the second half of the first season. Maybe swap Cherub's place with it in the episode's order, I would suggest, but that's just me. Stolas, wanting to be a good father to his daughter, takes her to their childhood theme park along with IMP for security. Because they're rich, and imps, they all want a piece of that. But if you want to show your daughter you truly care for her, then how about not flirting with the imp you started an affair with that pissed off your classist wife, and thus pushing your daughter further from you by ignoring her the entire time? Meanwhile, Millie and Moxie are preoccupied with a shady carny game to win her thing. Gotta say, good use of the M&Ms in their own little B-plot, since they have to be in this episode, unlike other times. Animation? Freaking stellar! Comedy? Great! Blitz? Tolerable. Emotional impact? Gag me! I'm torn into pieces. Overall, a great episode that established that Stolas has stakes in this transactional affair too. Its effects on Octavia, introducing a clown Blitz had a bad falling out with, and the M&Ms being cute. Solid 8 out of 10. This is a very fun episode, and probably my favorite of the first season. Meeting yet another person from Blitz's past that he burned bridges with, but this time it's an ex-lover who's a pop star succubus. Their little disagreement regarding a parking spot results in a competition of skill. Imp has to off more humans than Veronica and her succubi can get off during her beach concert. All the while, Luna is interested in Vortex, Veronica's hellhound, and though she tries to play it cool, she fails adorably, and just proves how little she interacts with anyone outside of work, let alone other hellhounds. Also, I am loving the succubi's variety in design, showing some diversity and different ways of seducing humans with various orientations and body types. While Blitz is full-on protective dad mode, the M&Ms go off to finish the rest of the killings. They really are cute together and make an amazing team. So rare to find a married couple in media that actually love each other, especially in adult animation no less. Luna actually feeling remorse for yelling at Blitz was satisfying to see and shows that she does care. Millie taking down a giant demon fish to save Moxie was awesome. The competition comes to a stalemate in the end since Veronica agrees to give the parking spot back to IMP so her gang doesn't get in trouble. I just freaking love how petty Blitz is here. All this death and destruction, nearly risking getting caught by humans. All this over a fucking parking spot. Oh, I love it. We stand a petty king. We love to see it. Animation was lovely. Comedy was great. Blitz is who he is, and we just gotta accept it. Amazing and one of the best episodes in terms of writing structure. 9 out of 10. By far the weakest episode this season, but not the worst. While I adore the trope of shows introducing counterparts to rival the main cast, the Cherubs were just underwhelming. Like, they weren't outstanding, they're just okay. As far as antagonists go, especially in this series, they're the least threatening by far. They'd be better suited off for the role of bad guys of the week, honestly. And Heaven also possibly being corrupt too? Wow, how original. Between Earth and Hell, now even Heaven seems messed up in some way. Everywhere and everyone is crappy, which makes this world building very small with little to no real juxtaposition to Hell. Kinda sad. Watching the Cherubs go toe-to-toe with IMP while their target was gonna do their job for them was entertaining though. The M&Ms are goals yet again. Animation was great. Comedy was on point. I'm curious where the Cherubs are now though, but I doubt we'll get a satisfying answer anytime soon. 4 out of 10. In this episode, we visit the Wrath Ring for the Harvest Moon Festival, a ring where Millie and Moxie are from, where IMP stayed at Millie's family farm. We also meet Millie's parents and siblings, including the first trans woman introduced in the series, her sister Sally Mae, and we're also introduced to Millie's family's new farmhand Striker. Why yes, this is a Moxie episode, how could you tell? I will never let go how much of a wasted opportunity this episode was for Millie. Never! Moxie feels insecure because the in-laws think he's a soft theater boy, so he tries proving himself in the pain games, which goes as well as you think it does. Worst of all, he gets shown up by Stryker in every way, but learns that he's planning to take out Stolas during the festival. Stryker tussles and stashes the M&Ms in the cellar. Millie gives Mox a pep talk. He does what he does best, and he and Blitz fight Stryker to save Stolas, but the snake gets away thanks to a tension-cutting joke at Moxie's expense. Oh, but the reveal of Stella hiring Stryker, though, genuinely did take me by surprise. I've talked about this episode to death in other videos, hence my haste through it. Stryker was a great addition because he's what Blitz could be, or could strive to be, if he was willing to cut corners. It was nice having a more serious antagonist for the show, and a real threat to look forward to returning. Nice while it lasted. Animation was great, choppy in like 2 scenes, but not a total deal breaker. Comedy, well, at Moxie's expense, was okay. 6 out of 10. As far as dramatic tension, emotional stakes, and stellar fight choreography goes, this episode was batting 1,000. Moxie and Blitz are captured by Men in Black rejects, so it's up to Luna and Millie to save them, ending in a grand sequence of killer teamwork until Stolas comes to bail them out. Blitz and Moxie mouthing off the agents was hilarious. Those two were working so well off of each other, and it seems that Moxie is starting to adopt some of Blitz's snark. As much as I enjoyed their chemistry and growth this episode, I sure wish I could say the same for Luna and Millie. Don't get me wrong, seeing them murder their way through dork agents was amazing, but they barely spoke to one another. The visuals for both Moxie's and Blitz's truth serum trip was phenomenal, and possibly the best animation the show will ever have. These were deep dives into each of their psyches and the problems that they face with each other, and in Blitz's case, with those he pushed away. I mean, in hindsight of season 2, I feel like Moxie's dad should have been somewhere in his fantasy sequence and not just Blitz. But I'm just gonna pretend and accept that Moxie's biggest issue right now isn't his dad, it's Blitz, his boss. Especially since he walked away from his old mafia life to start anew. Even though we saw Fizzaroli, Verostica, Stryker, and Stolas in Blitz's trip, but whatever. Exceptions for previously seen characters, I guess. No wonder none of Blitz's family are there, of all at least his mother and sister. Actually, Moxie's trip was less about him and more about Blitz and his tendency to push people away. Moxie was largely part therapizing / criticizing a hallucination of his boss, while also being encouraged to be more of himself instead of hiding from his boss. Meanwhile, Blitz's trip spoon feeds us information that's already obvious and apparent from his push and pull behavior when it comes to relationships. But a chained Blitz climbing towards a spotless Stolas at the top of a golden staircase to escape the murky imps and succubi spoke volumes of symbolism. Even more so after Stolas saved IMP. But oh no, the agents now have video evidence of demons existing! I can't wait for this very important plot point to go fucking nowhere! In hindsight, animation, holy cow, outstanding. Comedy? Good. Overall, 7 out of 10. It's the Love Bug's first anniversary, and they're spending it at the most exclusive club in the lustring, Aussie's. But of course, Blitz wanting to pry leads him to asking for Stolas to join him as his date just to get in, and oh boy, a mess of Blitz's exes. And Stolas' social dilemma starts crashing down. The excuse that Blitz had to call Stolas because Aussie's club is for couples only was such BS and raises a few questions, but this ain't the video for that. Stolas is excited for their first date, while Blitz, as usual, is just using him as a means to an end. These two are a freaking train wreck. I love and hate rooting for them. Moxie's song for Millie was sickeningly beautiful. A wonderful contrast of genuine love and admiration in the most lustful ring of hell. These two continue to be goals, even though Millie hasn't done jack shit this season. Never gonna let that go. They're clearly meant to be the exception of true monogamy in hell, which makes Aussie and Fizz's belittling all the more brutal. Blitz trying his best to defend them was nice and all, but that just cleared a target on him and Stolas' back, for not just Fizz to drag his failures, but Verostica too. And to top it off, the Lord of Lust himself publicly humiliates Stolas with the affair. leaving Stolas and Blitz in a real tough spot for whatever the relationship is meant to be. Stolas wants to make it more than a monthly booty call, while that's all it is to Blitz and possibly his only other hope of not being alone. Toxic codependency. You hate to see it, but boy does it make great television. Oh, and the singing was at its finest here. Excellent performances all around. You probably noticed by now that I haven't really mentioned any of the songs in this review. That's because I just don't care for when shows feel the need to cram a song in every damn episode. Phineas and Ferb burned me out of that, and it's bad enough every other show is a musical, and I just can't. Animation, amazing. Comedy and drama, great. 7 out of 10. The oh so elusive episode 8, freed from its own personal hell. Just like I thought it would be, it's the intended wrap-up party of the season and doesn't really progress anything from the previous episode. Kesha provided the voice of Beelzebub, and I'll be honest, it's the flattest VA work this show has had yet. But you gotta appreciate a real full circle moment here for Viv's work considering the success of her Die Young music video back in the day. The pacing was a tad rushed in some scenes, the song was a freaking trashy pop earworm, so it did its job well. But the best thing about this episode was actually Luna. She's a full-on wallflower here, feeling out of place even among her fellow hellhounds, resorting to her nasty attitude when she's presented with conflict. Looking at this season in a vacuum, it did wonders for Luna in terms of growth between her and Blitz, because throughout this whole season, the worst she's done to him was insult him, yell at him, push him out of her face, and growl at him. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Luna has never once physically harmed Blitz to the same degree as we see in season 2. Her progression at that point feels backwards. Meanwhile here, it's going forward. When feeling embarrassed and shown up by Vortex's girlfriend, Beelzebub, Lady of Gluttony, Luna feels insecure and defeated, so she calls Blitz to pick her up from the party. And we know it's the same night as Ozzy's because Blitz is still in the same outfit on the couch. Plus, earlier in the episode, Luna ignored a call from Blitz, and in Ozzy's, he called her and left a voicemail. But after getting rizzed up by a hellhound I'm calling Jasper, for no particular reason, he just looks like a Jasper to me, and nothing else. Blitz beats the non-bee Queen Bee at her own game, Luna cheering and proudly saying, "That's my dad," was everything to me. Because while I don't expect her to become a daddy's girl overnight, she could at least start to show some small instances of being nicer to Blitz as the show goes on from this point, right?
Good throw, honey. I'm so proud of you.
If I'm so terrible, how about you just grow a pair and replace me?
It was really sweet and refreshing to see Luna actually caring for Blitz and his destructive stammer. The animation, as always, was great. We are never seeing this fugly-ass design again. Bless those animators. Comedy, not much here. It was okay. But overall, it was a fun send-off for Season 1. 5 out of 10. Helluva Boss has certainly come a long way from its pilot, and the whole team deserves an applause. The animators, cleanups, storyboarders, in-betweeners, colorists, background artists, prop designers, character designers, composition, VFX, every artist pouring their all to produce high-grade, studio quality for this independent web series are phenomenal. Voice cast always brings their A-game to these characters, which makes them all the more enjoyable to watch and remain invested in. The music, sound effects, audio mixing, and composers created brilliant and memorable scores. The songs and jokes are a hit or miss, just really depends on your own taste in music and comedy. Overall, pretty great. But after Truth Seekers, I realize I don't really enjoy Richard Horvitz singing for Moxie, especially if it's meant to be in a more emotional ballad with high notes. It's either out of his vocal range or the voice just takes me out of it. I'm sure he's giving his all when singing those cheesy lyrics, but I don't mind skipping an emotional Moxie song personally. The writing, while having a few flaws and awkward or clunky dialogue here and there, can be just as heartfelt as it is gripping with tension, yet some jokes do overstay their welcome. I think Helluva Boss works better when focusing on one plot throughout an episode, rather than splitting focus on two or an unnecessary third. Back when the show was more episodic, and if a new antagonist was set up in one episode, we'd see them later on. Man, season 1 was so well written. What happened? Because season 2 seems to be going in a serialized direction, specifically the focus is now on Stolitz, to the point where IMP haven't even done their job since season 1. But from the looks of previews for episode 5, It looks like they're getting back to their roots, but at this point, we're nearly halfway through the second season of a show that sold its premise of funny little demons that say no words, whose job it is to assassinate targets on Earth, which they've only done for less than about 1/3 of the series! The transactional relationship being brought up was expected, but now it feels like their drama is consuming the whole damn show. I noticed that Brandon Rogers isn't credited as the main writer for Season 2 as much as he was for Season 1. So maybe that has something to do with Season 2 feeling off lately? But who knows, maybe his episodes are coming further down the line. We'll just have to wait and see. Those are my thoughts for Season 1 of Helluva Boss, so let me know yours in the comments. Did I miss something? Did the show peak in its first season? Or is it getting gradually better as time goes on? Who's to say? I don't know. And hey, if you think my channel is underrated, or that I deserve more attention like these lovely people seem to think so, then you know what to do. I don't want to be the kind of YouTuber who always begs and pleads and asks for their audience to subscribe for the sake of asking, because if people enjoy what I do, then of course you're gonna subscribe and like and share and all that jazz. Y'all are smart enough to know that, and I shouldn't have to talk down to my audience for them to even do it. But I guess every now and again reminding people to subscribe, smash the like button, share this video with a friend, doesn't hurt, I guess. It just feels so belittling of your own intelligence. Ah well, YouTube and its algorithm, am I right? Thanks for watching!